Hold on, let me check. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Yeah, all right. Today, I'm from Malaysia. My name is Haris, Mohd Harris. I'm a BIM director in my company. This is my profile. And basically, today I'll be sharing with you a little bit background of my project, company, and what I've been doing in Malaysia, and some introduction about BIM. And I'll be going through some theory and concept of building information modeling, BIM technology and method, BIM process, and a little bit about what is BIM level 2 and BIM ISO 19650. And finally, I share with you about quantifying the financial benefit of BIM. Uh, about my organization, I'm Ascension Technology. We've been serving several of organization in Malaysia. This among the company that I've been serving. And among my project, this one of the project in Putrajaya with we are the BIM checker. The contractor is implementing BIM by their own, and we check whether the BIM is correctly being handled by the contractor. And mixed development among the project that we are currently ongoing in Malaysia. And hospital, BIM in KPJ Hospital by the developer. And a mall, we also BIM consultant for one of the mall, modeler and design review. And a process checker for one of the Pan Borneo Highway in Sarawak. We check whether the implementer of BIM is doing BIM correctly, and also we are BIM consultant for the utility relocation. And also we develop a BIM contract and specification for some of the development in Putrajaya as well. Because in order to implement BIM correctly, we need to have a correct specification and contract. And LRT3, we are the modeler and coordinator for LRT3. And also this one, for a short time, we almost, Malaysia almost proceed with the high-speed rail, but being postponed. And we developed the specification for this high-speed rail, common data environment specification, BIM execution plan, and BIM strategy for my HSR corporation. And mostly what the client requests from us is to handle the 3D coordination, clash detection, 5D quantity takeoff, cost calculation and control, to visualize 3D for the construction progress monitoring, 4D, and facility management. Mostly is to address the issue of conflict and complexity of design, inadequate design information, inadequate site investigation, poor communication, and unrealistic time target. So I go on with the basic understanding about building information modeling, and after that I go into a detail about how we practice BIM in the project and in organization. Basically, the source of reference for this BIM sharing is from the origin of BIM, because as everyone know that BIM begin in United States. If you can see that the first idea of about BIM being introduced by Charles Eastman in the early 1970s. And then the Gabor Boja architect produced the software in 1980s. Leonard Reyes produced the Revit in 1998, and Autodesk bought over Revit in 2002. And terms BIM begin to be introduced in United States in 2000 to 2002 and being popularized by the Jerry Lysrin, if everybody heard about his name. So that's where BIM begins. So if we want to know what is BIM all about, we need to go back to the origin of BIM, which is the United States from the Stanford University and so on. And then the standards and everything about BIM being produced by the UK, United Kingdom. The BIM Level 2 is produced by the United Kingdom by Mark Bew, if everybody heard about his name. And then the standards and the reference of BIM process being produced by the British Standard Institute. So what I share here is relate to the reference from United States, the origin of BIM and the standard of BIM in United Kingdom. And if we talk about BIM, BIM, it can be three ethos, either building information model, which refer to the 3D model itself, or it can be building information modeling, which refer to the process of implementing the information, or we can say as building information management, which is referring to the operation and maintenance based on the digital information. So all these three, as you can see, is the BIM, BIM. But if you say building information model, it refers to the 3D model itself. And modeling means the process of the information. So why we implement BIM? Because we want to have to reduce the waste of time, waste of money, effort, material, and to improve efficiency, coordination, and design. If we fail to get this benefit when we implement BIM, means that we do not do BIM correctly. We must achieve the reduction of waste, time, money, effort, material, and improve. We must improve. When we implement BIM, we must improve the efficiency, coordination, and design. Basically, why we carry out BIM, if you see the construction 2025 from the UK, which produced in July 2013, in this document, actually, you can Google and download this document. The idea of implementing BIM is to lower the cost by 33% and to get the faster delivery of the project by 50%. That is the reason why they want to implement BIM. So when you implement BIM, you must get some kind of benefit here. Okay, so building information modeling, if you want to see what is the definition of BIM, this is from the first journal of BIM, published by Building Smart International Alliance in 2007. It said here that BIM can be thought of a set of database of the building project. The information in this database span full range of data integrated data set. BIM integrates the information created by many industry domain. That means BIM is about the data, about the information and database. Everything about BIM is how you develop the information in the database. The planning information, design information, building information, you put it in a database, and from this information that you develop will give you a virtual design that will give you the 3D model. It's not about developing the 3D model, it's about inputting the information into the database using the medium, which is the software that will give you the visual of 3D model. Basically, BIM is about inputting the information and extracting the information for your day-to-day activities. Okay. You input the information using the software or what, you input correctly, get the information properly, and then you extract the information to get whatever you are doing on the day-to-day basis. For example, the information that you input, the geometric information, the parametric information, and then you extract the information for the estimates, for the RFI, and facility management, and anything what you want to do on the daily basis. So BIM can exist in either in architect firm, in engineer firm, in QS firm, client, contractor, or project manager. So BIM not necessarily exist in the project. It can exist in the organization itself. Architect implement BIM for the benefit of the architect, for their own benefit. Engineer implement BIM for their own purpose. QS for the QS purpose, client for it. So every organization can have their own BIM internally. BIM not necessarily implement in the project. And another way is we can implement BIM throughout the project. This is a BIM implement in the organization itself, whereby you can get a BIM handbook from Chuck Eastman. You can see in this handbook that BIM is implemented in the organization by the specific discipline. Building owner, designer, QS, contractor have their own way of implementing BIM. And BIM also can be implemented throughout the construction process. So the way of you implement BIM in the organization and how you implement BIM for the project is different. It's not the same. In the organization, you implement BIM for the purpose of the organization itself. As architect implement BIM for the purpose of architect, engineer for the purpose of engineer, and so on. But for the project, you have to implement BIM for the benefit of the project. Every discipline, every stakeholder have to collaborate in order to get the project benefit. It's not for the purpose of the organization benefit, but for the project benefit. So how you implement BIM for the project is different than how you implement BIM in the organization. And implementing BIM is not just one way. There are several tiers of implement BIM. Third class implementation of BIM is by only using the tools without the process. You only have a 2D, you get a 3D, and then you convert from the 2D to 3D. That is a third class of implementing BIM, where you won't get a high benefit of BIM. Then, to get a better benefit of BIM, you need to have a relevant tools with a CDE. I believe everyone here have some basic knowledge about building information modeling. Yes, at least you guys, I expect you already have a basic understanding of BIM. At least you know how to use the software lah. Because when I show how to implement BIM here, is already at not at the beginning level. You guys have to already have some knowledge about BIM, because you see it shows here that if you implement BIM just for the purpose of getting the 3D model, you won't get much benefit. You need to have a right process and you need to have right standards. If you want to implement BIM with a better benefit, you need to use the BS, British Standard 1192, BS 8536, BS. All these standards will give you a higher benefit. If you just implement BIM using a 3D model and the software, you get a lesser benefit. And in this BIM implementation, there are two parts. One part is on the technology itself, which is the 3D models, you know, with the drones, with the laser scan, with the smart sensors and so on, the technology to produce the 3D model and to input the information in the 3D model. And another part of the BIM implementation is the process part. Means that you need to got the right process in order to ensure that the information that you input in the model is correct. So it's not just about learning the software, it's also about knowing how to use the information and how to make sure that the information that you input is correct. So there are two parts. When you attend the training, you need to attend both. Means that you need to attend the training for the software, and you also need to attend the training for the process part. It's easy to get a training for the software side because all the software vendor will have a training. So most of the BIM implementation only stop at the software side, but on the process side that lacking. On the process on how you want to make sure that the information that you input is correct, and how you want to make sure that the process of extracting the information for your activity is right. So on the technology part, you everyone know that throughout the construction process, we can have so many type of the software, so many software and so many vendors that produce software for your use. For example, previously we only implement BIM, implement the construction process using 2D drawings. Now with the 3D software like Revit, ArchiCAD, Bentley, and so on, we can have a 3D model visualization. And as everyone know, this is called as a 3D in the BIM implementation. 3 dimension. We get the 3 dimension from the 2D models. Another part is you can have laser scanning. You can get the existing asset in the roads, in the building, and you can overlay with the 3D design model. Like for example, this one, this is a design model. This is the based on the laser scanning. We scan using the point cloud. We have a 3D model and we overlay with the design. We want to make sure whether the design hit any existing structure. So this 3D visualization also known as a 3 dimension. And then we have another part is using the 3D visualization to check the 3D clash detection, design review, and so on. For example, like this one is also a 3D visualization. And then we got 4D simulation. Before we see using the Microsoft project, using the Primavera to plan the work, and then now we got the 3D model, 3D model to simulate your work program. This one we call as 4D. I'm sure you guys heard about it already. And from the taking off perspective for the 5D part, before we have to take off using the takeoff paper. And then now with the 5D software, we can use a few button click and you can get the taking off and the quantity of the building easily. And this we known as the 5 dimension, the 5D. And of course, we know about the 6D. Some areas say the 6D is the operation and maintenance, and some say the 6D is sustainability. So it depends from where you come from. Is either 6D can be sustainability or 6D can be operation and maintenance. And if the 6D is sustainability, then the 7D will be the facility management. This is a basic terms that you need to understand when implement BIM. 3D is looking at the 3 dimensional. 4D is about the scheduling. You can see the 3D model with the schedule. 5D is the estimating, and you get the quantity and costing from the 5D. And 6D sustainability, and 7D is facility management. And then you have a change of method in terms of the filing, you safekeeping of your information. Previously, you have a shelf to put all your information, and then now with the common data environments, CDE, you put all your information and documents in the centralized platform, collaboration platform, where we can share the information with all the stakeholders. and other digital technologies such as the mobile enable for the CDE, and then field management, laser scanning, validate actual site condition where we fly drones and so on to get the information to input and produce the 3D models. And also we can have all this technology to check on the defect management, online launch reporting and photos and everything. All those are the technology part of building information modeling. And this 3D, 4D, 5D, not necessarily go in sequence. You can have a concurrent implementation. Means that you can have a 3D at the same time, you can have 4D and 5D, all concurrent implementation, not necessarily sequential. And another term that you need to know is the LOD. I'm sure you already heard about level of detail, level of development. So in order to know what is level of development, you can see that in the AIA document E202-208 from US, American Institute of Architects, they produce the level of detail based on LOD 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. 100 is referred to the conceptual, 200 approximate geometry, 300 precise geometry, and so on. And you can get also the similar thing in Australia, based on A, B, C, D, E, or you can get the LOD 100, 200 from the BIM forum, BIM Building Smart International Alliance have their own LOD definition. BSI have their own LOD definition. And this one, as you can see, difference. LOD 300, this LOD 300 is a 3D model, while this LOD 300 is a flat, it's not a 3D model. That shows that LOD definition from different country have a different definition. So this one, practicalbim.net is from Australia. Australia LOD is something different, as you can see here. This is very detailed. LOD 100 in Australia showing that a very detailed chair compared to LOD 300, less detail, and then this one flat and so on. But if you take LOD from the American Institute of Architects or British Standard Institute, you see LOD 100 is a basic model, 200 is a little bit detail, 300 more detail, 400 and so on is more detail. So there's two different definition of LOD which you need to understand. You cannot mix up between all these definition. And LOD, level of detail, and level of development is two different things. Development is about accuracy, detail is how much information that you input in the model. So LOD is very subjective. Now worldwide is going away from LOD. They are using a level of information need, LOIN. So LOD is something that we're going to pass, already going to leave the LOD definition. If in Africa still using LOD, you need to upgrade into the new definition, which is the level of information needs. Is no longer about LOD. So on the technology side, we got a lot of software. We call it as authoring tools. We have Revit as one authoring tools, Graphisoft Archicad, Tekla, Intergraph, and all these things is authoring tools. And then you got analysis tool on the software side. Navisworks, if you want to pair, if you use Revit, then you use a Navisworks as an analysis tool. Then you got BIM Collab, Solibri, BIM 360 as a collaboration tools. And then you got for the other use like Synchro is 4D. All this is a software that being used in the BIM implementation worldwide. And if you only implement BIM by using software alone, the benefit that you get is a bit less. You get some benefit from it, but it's not much. Like it shows from Bentley research here, if technology alone, you will only improve 14 to 15% of productivity. And you can get cost saving is on around 4 to 6%. means that if you only implement 3D model, you only use technology, you only use software, you can only improve this much in terms of project implementation. In order to get more, like remember earlier I put there that improve in terms of cost by 33% and time by 50%. So using technology, you will not achieve that target. So you need to have a correct process, correct process in terms of how you want to make sure that your process is efficient, so that you can reach 33% in terms of cost improvement and 50% of time improvement. So in terms of process, if you Google about BIM, it will show you that BIM is a process. So the question is, what process? Is it a learning process? Is it a business process, construction process, or information development process? So BIM is a process, but what process? If based on the document that I show you earlier, in terms of the standards, in order to implement BIM, the process, we already have the standard developed in UK by the British Standard Institute. You got PAS 1192-2, PAS 1192-3-5-6, and BS 1192, and so on. So based on all these documents, it shows that BIM is about the information development process. It's not about the construction process, because we already have a construction process established for the last 20-30 years. So when BIM come in, the process that being introduced in BIM, other than the software, is on how you want to make sure that the information that you input in the software is the right information. As everyone know that if technology alone is kind of depend on the human input. If you input rubbish, then the information that you get is rubbish, and the extraction of information for your activity, day-to-day activity, is rubbish. So even with the high technology, if the information is wrong, that you won't get any benefit out of it. That's why some of the implementer of BIM saying that it is a fake BIM, pseudo BIM, and so on, because the information is not correct. You develop the information is wrong. You get a 3D model nicely, but the information is not accurate. You know, you cannot use the 3D model for the construction. There are so many dispute on the 3D model itself. You got the technology so good, but the information is wrong. So that's why we need the standard in terms of how you want to make sure that the information that you input in the model is correct. So this is the standard that we have from PES 1192, PS, and so on, to make sure that the information that you input in the model is correct. So from that process, from that document, you will get this process. If you see this process, it shows that there's a process of ensuring that the information, engineer content check, coordination check, interface coordination, share, and so on. This process is to ensure that the information that you input in the 3D model is correct. Of course, I'm not sure whether you guys are waiting to see the 3D model, because BIM is not about the 3D model alone. I'm sure everyone here already see all this 3D model, or the Revit model, ArchiCAD model, and so on. I'm not going to show any software here. I'm going to share with you how you want to make sure that the information you input in the 3D model is correct. You can have a very good model, but the information is wrong. So this is the process that to ensure that information that you input in the model is correct, so that you can reap the benefit of BIM and improve the process of construction. So this is another process from Singapore, from BCA BIM Guide. As you can see, there's a 3 different discipline. Before you coordinate these 3 disciplines, you need to have a check, review, and approve. You know the process. You make sure that the discipline, the 3D model from architect, engineer, MEP, and so on is correct. You check the information, you review, you approve, and then you put into a coordination. You integrate all these 3 disciplines into one integrate model. Then you check again. You make sure that the information do not contradict each other. There's no dispute between these 3 disciplines. From 3 separate model, you make sure that the information is correct, then you integrate the model, you check again there's no dispute between these 3 models, then you get the authorization from BIM manager or BIM coordinator before you share to the site people. Basically, this is a construction process. This is a construction process. There's a design process, there's a construction process, and the FM process. So this is the information development. You make sure you coordinate the information, you coordinate the information, you input the information, you make sure that the information is correct before you implement in the construction process. This is the process of ensuring that the information is correct before you get it to the site. Again, construction process. This is the whole construction life cycle from the design stage. This is the design stage. This is your construction stage and the closure and FM stage. So throughout the construction life cycle here, you get the information correctly. You check, you review, and approve the information before you input it into the construction life cycle. Before the information come to the people on site, people doing the project, you make sure that the information is correct. In order to do that, then you use all these standards. There's a standard reference to make sure how to get the information correct. And you use the technology, you use the Revit, you use a simulation, you use Navisworks, all kind of technology in order to ease the process of information development. So you got the process here, and then you got the technology, you got the 3D model here. Then you use the technology with the process before you can ensure that the project runs smoothly. So as a summary here, you see the technology side and the process side. And the technology side is all about the 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, LOD, and so on. The process is about having the level 1, level 2, level 3, and by implementing correctly, you get the highest benefit of BIM in your project. So BIM level 2 versus ISO. Everyone heard about this? BIM level 2? No? So BIM level 2, the criteria is about the technology, people, and process again. You heard about this? Guys?
Yeah, we heard about this.
Yeah, so you heard this BIM maturity level. This is from UK. From UK, PAS level 92-2. This is the overall maturity level. Maturity level by Mark View. And if you talk about BIM level 2, this is the only reference for BIM level 2. There's no other place that refer about BIM level 2. So when they talk about BIM level 2, they are referring to this area. So another place that mentioned about level 2 is by Bentley. By Bentley, they mentioned about level 2, but it's a totally different thing. So in BIM, when you talk about level 2, it's about the maturity level. It's about how you want to ensure that you get the highest maturity. It's about what document you use. It's not about what model you use. It's not this. Okay, it's not this. Some people already changed that maturity level become this, become the 2D, become the 4D, 5D, and so on. This is not what it means. If you talk about level 2, it's about this one. About what document you use. Whether you use BS 1192-2 or you use 8541. So BIM level 2 is about what document you use to manage the information. If you see the detail about this maturity level, it states here, special coordination based on BS 1192 has potential to remove error and reduce waste by 50%. What it said here is that if you use the right process and the right standard, the right document, BS 1192 2007, then only you get the reduce waste by the 50%. It's not about you use the software. It's not about you use the 3D model. You got the improvement of efficiency and effectiveness. Is when you use BS 1192 2007. That is actually BIM. It's not the 3D model. It's not the software. It's not the Autodesk or so on. BIM is about having the right process, having the right information you input into the model, and having the right standard. When you use it, you use BS 1192, then only you will get a reduction of waste by 50%. And you can see here, in this model, also you said fully integrate into BIM has a potential to mitigate risk throughout the process and to increase profit by 2%. What is said here is not by using 3D model you get the profit, increase the profit by 2%. It's when you integrate and having all these document correctly. You use the standard correctly, then you get the benefit. So what I'm saying here is that the process is more important than the 3D model that you are showing, that most of the BIM implementer showing you guys. Okay? Usually when we talk about BIM, people will show you 3D model. And people will open the software. But in my presentation, I'm not going to show you the software. We do software, yes, but the benefit come from the right process, because we have an experience for so long that a wrong process will give you the beautiful 3D model, but the 3D model cannot be used for the construction. That's where some of the authority in BIM saying that it's a fake BIM, because you just develop a good 3D model, but that 3D model is not good enough for construction. When you want to use the construction, that 3D model is insufficient. So what need to be done here is to have the right process, is to have the right standards, and from the right process, you can get the good benefit. So this is the overall BIM maturity level. You need to get all these things. It's not just on top here. I'm not sure what people show you, but some will only show on top of this triangle. But actually the whole BIM maturity level is with all these documents. Maturity means whether you matured enough to manage the information. Either you use the 2D model with the right standard, you manage the information from the 2D, or you use a 3D model and manage the information correctly using the right standards. And of course, there's a AIM, asset information management here, and so on here. All these standards, when you use the right standard, then only you can call yourself as level 2. If only 3D model is not sufficient enough to be at level 2. And this is incorrect triangle. Maybe you can see someone show you this, you said, oh, you use 4D, you use 5D, you are level 2. That is not right. 4D and 5D is more still fall under the technology part. this triangle is talking about the process part. So you cannot put 4D and 5D as level 2. This model, this triangle is totally incorrect. And you heard another one is from Australia. This is a model from Australia, BIM capability stage. This one is BIM maturity level. The name is BIM maturity level. It's not BIM maturity stage and so on, because it's being researched by Mark Bew, and they give this framework a name maturity level. And this one is by Bilal Suka, developed in 2009. He is an Australian, and he give a name of BIM capability stage. This is to measure whether you are capable. The earlier one is to measure whether you mature to manage the information correctly. And this model is to measure whether you are capable in in uh, in operating the software. If you are capable model one type of model, then you are at stage 1 capability. If you can merge two model into one integrated model and collaborate nicely, you are at stage 2. And if you have a network-based integration, then you are at stage 3. This is totally to measure your capability in handling the technology. This one is to measure your capability in managing the information. Two different things. You cannot uh, put everything into one. You need to understand it's the capability stage to measure your capability of using the software. The maturity level is to measure your maturity in managing the information. So it's two different criteria. So this is from Australia. So when the market evolve, the BIM level 2 is no longer being used. So now the whole world is going towards ISO. The initial BIM level 2 is only mentioned here in PS 1192-2, BS 1192 in UK. Now this document already being upgraded into ISO 19650 and 6501 and ISO 19650-2. And this the document how to use these two documents. So now the BIM level 2 is going to phase out again, like LOD, all LOD and everything going to phase out, being replaced by level of information needs. And same goes with the BIM level 2, going to phase out and being replaced by ISO 19650. Soon all the standard that are available in the UK will be replaced with ISO. Okay, quantifying financial benefit of BIM. This is from our experience. From our experience, as you know, the construction landscape currently, there's research shows that as much as 30% of construction cost is wasted in the field due to coordination error, wasted material, and labor inefficiencies. So based on our study, that the coordination error will give you a wastage of 2% to 5%. Wasted material will give you a wastage of 5 to 8%, and labor inefficiency will give you 15 to 20% wastage. And based on our experience in terms of labor efficiency, refer to this project is 31 floors in Johor Bahru. We compare between without BIM, similar project, 30 overflow, and with BIM technology, we got the efficiency of 7 days. Without BIM, similar project, 6 to 8 weeks for response to local authority comment, and with BIM only 7 days. You see how much improvement when we use correct BIM. Time taken for measurement, based on 4, without BIM, we need to use 4 QS, and it takes 6 weeks to get the quantity out. And with BIM, we only use 3 QS and 3 weeks to get all the quantity out. From here, we already save 14,000, almost 14,000 in terms of cost saving. Rework hours compared to total hour, without BIM, usually the rework is about 20%. With BIM, it's less than 1%. Minute per day to spending resolving issue on MEP. Without BIM, our site people have to spend about 3 hours per day to check on the coordination of MEP. With BIM, only 20 to 30 minutes. So that is a labor efficiency that we get by using BIM. And in terms of coordination error, from case study 1, without BIM, RFI due to conflict during construction is an average of 677. There's a 600 up to 800 actually, and the average of 677. And with BIM, the RFI only 2, and change order due to conflict during construction. Without BIM, 300 over, and with BIM, 0. So how we get here, we don't call it as cost saving, we call it as cost avoidance, because it's very difficult to get the saving because of these numbers. How you want to know 600 over, the cost of 600 over RFI is very difficult. So we call it as a cost avoidance, something that we can avoid. It's about for 200 million project, we avoid additional cost of almost 4 million. And this another one in terms of accuracy. You see, this is actual information. We get manual taking off, and 5D taking off. The different BQ quantity 77,000, but with actual taking off, this is a manual taking off by the QS. QS take off got 77,900 square meter, but with 5D taking off using one of the software is only 52,000, and this 54 is we use two method, two different technology. One is Revit, one is another software. So Revit got 54,000, another software got 52,000. So big difference with the manual taking off, you see. So this is more accurate, and our client believe that the 52,000 is the right quantity. So this 25,000 extra quantity in the BQ, can you imagine when the contractor put in the price? So this another proof of quantity takeoff. So you can see here, design quantity check during design phase, potential VO claim, loss and expend time due to dispute and so on, up to 5 million. Positive cost impact 4 million and negative cost impact 2 million. So we have a cost impact up to 5 million because of the quantity in the BQ and plus the 5D BIM. We got all the difference. You see the error up to 71%. This is 50% slab errors. So all this error between manual and 5D BIM give you the cost impact of 5 million. So you see, it's not just theory, but in actual, we prove that for the 200 million project, we already save in terms of cost impact and cost avoidance up to 9 million. 9 million is almost 5%. Okay, so this is one of the thing that we have, but if the BIM Africa want to mandate or something, don't just mandate BIM. You need to make sure you have correct methodology and outcome. You already define the correct requirement. You already have the right methodology and outcome. You have the right common data environment, and you start with the end in mind. And of course, if you mandate something, you need to have an enforcement ready to make sure that everything being done correctly. So what is important is do the right BIM at the right time, by the right people for the right reason, because we face a lot of problems when people only implement BIM by using software alone without having the right process, the right people, and without having the right reason. They only want to see the 3D model. So it will be a very huge waste if you only implement BIM on by using only 3D model. You need to have the right process and the right BIM in order to reap the benefit of building information modeling. So you can't just make the soup right, you have to also be sure you are making the right soup, because you can have the, if maybe the client are asking you the chicken soup, but you give him the oxtail soup. Very good oxtail soup, but it's not the right soup what the client want. So that's about it, guys. You can visit my YouTube channel at bit.ly BIM Beyond. There's more BIM sharing here, from the basic of BIM, the software, if you want to listen about how the software implementation in BIM, there's in this YouTube channel, up to the highest level of BIM implementation. Any question?
Thank you very much, Dr. Harris, for your insights. It's been an explosive, almost an hour. Personally, I've learned a lot from your presentation, from the clarity you provided between technology and processes. So because of time, we'll allot just a few minutes for question and answers. Actually, I have a question myself. And the question I have is, from your experience of consultancy, from my own little experience, I've noticed that a lot of firms, they understand the importance of BIM, but they are always in a haste. They don't have the patience to go through the riddles of setting up a proper process, or even when they're implementing BIM on a project, they are always not, they feel like they don't have enough time for them to go through all the processes of proper execution plan and all that. So as for your experience of consultancy, how do you manage to take firms through that journey or through that process of migrating from a traditional workflow to a BIM-based workflow?
Okay. Usually when you want to migrate from the conventional method, even in Malaysia, what happened is that they take from the CAD. You already have the CAD drawings, and then from CAD drawings, they model into the 3D model. So that is actually the wrong process of BIM, because BIM is about having the 3D model first, and then from the 3D model you get the 2D out. It's not from the 2D then you get the 3D. That is wrong. That is why during our conference in Singapore, they said it as a fake BIM. Fake BIM means you got the 2D drawings, and then from that 2D you model. That is wrong. 2D must come from the 3D. You cannot get a 2D from CAD and then you model in Revit, you get another 3D. So that is wrong. So in order for you to change that approach, of course, you need to start from beginning. You cannot start BIM at the middle. Means that you already got the CAD drawings. You already got the 2D drawings, and then suddenly you want to come in doing 3D. So if that the situation, you face a lot of problem, because we already face this issue whereby how you want to make sure that the 3D model that you develop in Revit is exactly the same as the 2D. You get what I mean? You cannot make sure if you model the 3D from the 2D, you cannot make sure that the 3D is exactly as per design by the design consultant. So in order, your question is how you want to shift, right? How
Yeah,
you
I
want to
mean,
shift from conventional.
yes, how you encourage firms to move from the traditional process to a BIM-based process.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you need to start from beginning, from the design stage. From the design stage. In our experience, that you need to explain to the stakeholder that a BIM base will make their life easier than the conventional. Because currently what happened is that the BIM based work process, and when you want to start a BIM environment, everything become more difficult to the stakeholder. So if you ask people to do something that is more difficult than the previous, of course people don't want to change. Yeah. So how I do is I I prove to them that the BIM process will make their life easier than the previous conventional process. Then you need to show them that before BIM, their workload is heavier, their life is more difficult. With BIM, this is more on the practical side lah. We need to show them that on the day-to-day activity, their life is easier with BIM. You know, this is awareness. This is a proof, because what happened is in the real situation, when you ask people to convert into BIM, you make their life more difficult. As a human being, we don't want to change to something that is more difficult than what we usually do. And so if you put in BIM and make everyone life more difficult, of course they will reject. Of course they will say no. And so why you need to make your life difficult when you can deliver the project with the previous way, which is easier to you? That is the mindset lah. And that's true, you know. You cannot bring in BIM to people, just ask them to do and make their life difficult. No. So how I do is that this is a actual practical thing. You need to show them that previously you do this, which is take longer time, more difficult. Now with this, you get a lower uh, time span, and you get a better result. You need to prove to them. And you need to start from the design stage. You cannot start at the middle of the construction for BIM. That's the experience.
Yeah, thank you for the answer, for the clarity. And then Bogira Khalid is raising his hand. I guess you have a question to ask, so kindly unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation today. I'm Khalid from Algeria, and I'm studying in UTM, Malaysia.
Okay.
So I'm doing a research about developing a framework for the Algerian construction industry to start implementing BIM.
Okay.
So I did some screening through a questionnaire survey, and then I did an interview with some experts. They are working actually on BIM implementation. In the results, there is a mixture usage of 2D and 3D models. And for my framework, I'm basing on three main aspects, which is technology, process, and policy. But currently, the market is the lack of awareness, and there is a huge resistance to change. And as a developing country, What are your advices to start gradually implementing BIM in such markets? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So you are in Malaysia now?
No, I'm in Algeria for my data collection.
Oh, okay. So actually, Malaysia is not new in terms of BIM implementation. We started in 2007, as you know. But what happened is why there's less development in terms of implementation, because we start with software, the implementation of BIM start with software. So suddenly you want to change everything into 3D. So why make all this resistant? Because when you want to implement BIM, the 2D CAD is already there. You get what I mean? You already get the 2D CAD. So how they implement is they model from the CAD. You get a 2D CAD and then you model 3D. So that is the wrong process of BIM. So when you want you model from 2D to 3D, you get a lot of disputes. You want to solve the physical dispute, you create the contractual dispute. You get something else, So when you develop the 3D from the 2D, the model itself is already have a lot of discrepancy with the 2D. So you want to check the design discrepancy. Now you have to check the model discrepancy with the 2D. You get what I mean? So what happened is that when you have to check the model discrepancy with the 2D, you make everybody life is so difficult. So why you need to go to that process whereby you want to construct a building, but now you have to construct a 3D model and you have to go all this hassle to get the model, whereas you can use this 2D straight away with the building. You want the model or you want the building? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So what happened? So they just say no to the 3D model. You want to develop the model or you want to construct the building? Of course you want to construct the building. That is the contract is all about. It's not about the 3D model. So the approach of BIM that make everyone don't want to use BIM. Everyone resistant in terms of BIM implementation because the approach of BIM implementation itself, how you tell people the process of BIM, that is already wrong. That make the whole construction process become more difficult because of this new BIM. So when this wrong process come in, people feel that it's so difficult, so people resistant. People say, no, I don't want to go through all this hassle. Might as well I construct the whole building. Why I need to focus on this problem, on the 3D model problem, whereby I can take the 2D and construct the building. You see how the psychology part of the people. So that is the reason people resistant in implementing BIM, because of the dissemination of information about BIM is wrong. If you tell the right thing about BIM, that how BIM should be utilized and how is the process of BIM, that can make their life more easier, I am guarantee they will take it because it's proven with our project. We prove to them, we take a handhold and we show that how you want to make your project more successful, everyone take up. So why people resist in terms of BIM implementation? Because of wrong method of explaining to them and wrong way of BIM implementation. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you so much. I have another question also.
Yeah.
in Malaysia, there is a BSI center, and they provide some training on BIM implementation. So, what is your advice to start with?
Which one?
Training?
What center? What center again?
BSI, British
BSI.
Standard.
Yeah. It's new. They actually just started about BIM. About 1 year.
Which training? Yes. Which training do you think is most important to start BIM implementation?
Oh, to start BIM implementation, you need to go both. The technology means the software. You need to know the software, and you need to also attend the BSI training, the process training. Not necessarily BSI. Any training center that give you the process training, you need to attend. So it means both, not just software, because software alone will make your implementation more difficult. So both you need to attend both.
Thanks,
Currently, I'm also training those already attend the software training. Usually attend our training as well on the process side.
All right. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you once again, Dr. Harris. It seems there is no other question. So you spoke about your YouTube channel. So I suppose you have some videos that talk more on the processes and the technology as well on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I got the. If you see here, another thing about the BIM process in the YouTube channel. You see this one? This one, you see the watch out for pseudo BIM, wrong way of doing BIM. You can watch this as well. This
okay.
Pseudo BIM, wrong way of doing BIM. When you do BIM wrongly, then people will feel that it is so difficult to do BIM and they will resist.
Okay, so I guess everyone as part of this meeting should subscribe to the YouTube channel. So thank you very much, Dr. Harris. On behalf of BIM Africa, I want to thank you for your time and your opportunity to speak with you today and discuss with you on BIM. So we hope to hear more from you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Webinars and BIM talks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.